Okay, so picture this. Our story kicks off with a mystery, but not with some big explosion or a loud bang. No, it all starts with a loaf of bread, a simple artisanal loaf in Munich that just won't grow mold. I mean, it gets hard, it dries out, but it stays stubbornly, unnaturally sterile. And that one loaf of bread, well, that was the very first whisper of a silent transformation that would end up redefining life as we know it. Let's dig into how it all went down. So, in this explainer, we're going to trace the story through 4 acts. We'll start with those first weird whispers of change, then we'll uncover a kind of engineered genesis, see how the world fractured when the truth came out, and finally, we'll get to the main event, a great divergence for the entire human species. All right, so our story begins with these little disconnected events that are super easy to just brush off. Things that by themselves seem like a tiny curiosity, maybe just a simple mistake. But when you start to connect the dots, a really disturbing pattern starts to emerge. And this whole global mystery really starts with something so personal, so relatable. Meet Klaus Hoffmann, a master baker in Germany. This guy knows his craft inside and out, right? But for 6 straight months, his bread just won't rot. Now, the local authorities, they dismiss it. Oh, it's just some contamination. But Hoffman, he knows better. He can feel it in his gut that something fundamental has shifted in the world. And this is where we get our first real scientific clue. A grad student takes a look at this sterile bread under polarized light, and it shows something called birefringence. Now, that's an optical property you'd expect to see in a crystal, where all the molecules are lined up in perfect order. But in decaying bread, no way. That's supposed to be chaos. It's the first sign of some kind of hidden structure, an order where there should be none. So, yeah, the bread was just the tip of the iceberg. Pretty soon, the same pattern of unnatural sterility and invisible causes starts popping up everywhere. Cheese in Europe that just won't culture. Soil in Africa that's suddenly inert. And then, most tragically, it starts affecting people. A 7-year-old girl, Maya Krishnan, is dying, and her doctors can find absolutely no pathogen to explain it. The mystery is getting bigger, and now it's becoming lethal. And this isn't just about food and soil anymore. The human cost becomes terrifyingly clear with this new illness they start calling non-diagnostic fatigue syndrome. Cases just skyrocket by 340% over 17 years. It has all the signs of an emerging pandemic, but with a really chilling twist. There is no identifiable cause. None. So that brings us to our next chapter. A handful of researchers, who are being totally stonewalled by official channels, start connecting the dots on their own. And their investigation leads them all the way back to a single, long-forgotten, and honestly, an almost unbelievably ambitious experiment from decades earlier. And here it is. This is the scientific key that unlocks the entire mystery, molecular chirality. Okay, think of it like your hands. They're mirror images of each other, but you can't perfectly stack them, right? Well, all life on Earth is built from what we call right-handed molecules. So the researchers started wondering, what if a left-handed, a mirror version of life, was introduced into the ecosystem? So how in the world did an entirely new form of biology spread across the whole planet completely undetected? Well, the answer is both super simple and kind of profound. Our entire scientific toolkit, every single test, every sensor, is designed to see right-handed life. So these mirror bacteria, being left-handed, were basically invisible. They were everywhere, hiding in plain sight. And this is where the story takes a really chilling turn. Turns out, this wasn't a natural thing, or even just a simple accident. Back in 2028, the Global Health Council secretly approved a program called the Symbiosis Strategy to deliberately introduce these bacteria. It's just a staggering level of scientific hubris. And of course, it went wrong. In 2047, a containment failure at a Boston lab let an uncontained version out into the wild, and for almost 20 years, it spread in total silence. So as the truth slowly starts to leak out, humanity just fractures. On one side, you've got the institutions that created this whole crisis, and they are desperately trying to suppress the data. And on the other, a new scrappy collaboration of scientists pops up, working in the shadows to figure out what's really going on. And this is where the heroes of our story really show up, the WhisperNet. It was this decentralized, encrypted network where scientists, people like Armin Salak, the epidemiologist from the Bread Mystery, and Dr. Farah Ong, Little Maya's doctor, could share all this forbidden data. I mean, they were risking their careers, even their lives, to uncover a truth their own bosses were desperate to bury. The kind of institutional stonewalling they were up against is just perfectly captured by this official response. Can you imagine? You're a top epidemiologist trying to solve a global crisis, and you just hit this brick wall. New secret clearance levels like Level 7 were just invented on the spot, specifically to block anyone from looking too close. The very systems designed to protect our health were being used to enforce ignorance. It's wild. And through their secret work, the WhisperNet uncovered something truly horrifying. The official hospital treatments, they weren't just failing. They were actively making patients worse, literally speeding up their decline. The only thing that worked was a new, radical protocol they developed in secret, one that focused on adapting, not attacking. And it didn't just lead to recovery, it led to enhancement. So what was the official response to this incredible breakthrough? Was it collaboration? Nope. Escalation. A global AI surveillance system, ClawsHawk, gets activated, and its mission to classify, track, and detain anyone showing signs of this transformation. This wasn't a public health response anymore. It was a global manhunt for the very people who had been cured. Which brings us to our final act, the Great Divergence. Because this whole conflict really comes down to one big question. Is this a disease, or is it an evolution? The institutions, they saw an infection, but the WhisperNet and the survivors, they saw a transformation. These people weren't sick. They were becoming something new. And the abilities of these enhanced people are just astounding. We're not talking about simple superpowers here. This is like a fundamental upgrade to the human operating system. I mean, imagine collective intelligence, the power to literally share your thought processes to solve a problem as a group. A biological connection with the planet, where hurting the environment causes you physical pain. That forces a whole new kind of government, one built on actual empathy. So this sets up the final showdown, a clash between two totally incompatible worldviews. On one side, you have the institutions launching biological restoration, a program to forcibly cure the enhanced and bring them back to the human baseline they understand. And on the other, the enhanced are demanding the right to develop on their own. This isn't a war over land, it's a war for the very definition of humanity's future. And right in the middle of this conflict, the enhanced communities send out this powerful and honestly kind of beautiful declaration. It's not a threat, it's an invitation. They're not saying they're here to replace us, but to forge a new path. And they're leaving the door open for the rest of humanity to join them whenever we're ready. But the story has one last, absolutely stunning twist. The researchers discover that the Mirabacteria, they weren't man-made after all. They were actually scouts from a form of life that evolved somewhere else in the universe, a life that was deliberately looking to merge with life on Earth. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. After everything we've seen, was this whole thing an infection? Or was it an invitation to become something more?